Captain Jake Morrison had seen his share of impossible situations during his 15 years as a freelance cargo hauler, but nothing quite prepared him for the distress signal he picked up in the Kepler 442 system. The transmission was weak, garbled, and definitely not human in origin. Most sensible pilots would have logged it with the Galactic Commerce Authority and moved on. Jake had never been accused of being sensible. The signal led him to a debris field that stretched across several thousand kilometers of space. Twisted metal fragments drifted in the void, some still glowing from recent explosions. Jake's ship, the Lucky Strike, was built for hauling grain and manufactured goods between colonies, not search and rescue operations. But something about the transmission's desperate tone made him keep searching. "Computer, scan for life signs," Jake muttered, maneuvering between chunks of what looked like an advanced starship. The technology was unlike anything in human databases. Sleek curves and crystalline structures suggested the builders had mastered both aesthetics and engineering far beyond Earth's capabilities. Single life form detected, bearing 27 Mark IV. Biological readings indicate severe distress, the ship's AI announced in its maddeningly calm voice. Jake found the escape pod wedged against a massive piece of hull plating. The pod itself was a work of art, its surface covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow even in the harsh vacuum of space. More importantly, someone was alive inside. Getting the pod aboard the Lucky Strike required some creative use of the cargo bay's loading arms and a lot of prayer to whatever gods watched over foolish humans. The pod was roughly the size of a small shuttle but felt impossibly light. When the bay pressurized and Jake got his first look at the pod's occupant through the transparent aluminum viewport, his breath caught in his throat. She was definitely not human, but she was undeniably beautiful in a way that transcended species. Her skin had a faint silver luminescence, and her hair moved like liquid mercury despite the pod's artificial gravity. Most striking were her eyes, large, violet, and filled with intelligence that seemed ancient despite her youthful appearance. She wore what appeared to be formal robes that had been torn and stained during whatever catastrophe had destroyed her ship. The pod's systems were completely alien, but Jake had always been good with technology. After an hour of careful experimentation, he managed to establish basic communication with the pod's computer. The language barrier proved less difficult than expected. The pod contained translation software that quickly adapted to Jake's English. "My name is Princess Zara of the Ethereal Dominion," came the translated voice, musical and strained with exhaustion. "I am the daughter of Emperor Thane. My ship was attacked by the Dracoth Syndicate while traveling to peace negotiations with the Andromedan Collective. My guards, they died protecting me." Jake had heard whispers of the Dracoth Syndicate in the seedier spaceports he frequented. They were described as ruthless pirates who used technology that made them nearly unstoppable. If they had targeted a diplomatic mission, the political implications were staggering. "Princess, I'm Captain Jake Morrison. You're safe now, but we need to get you medical attention. Can the pod systems tell me about your injuries?" The diagnosis was grim. Zara had suffered severe internal injuries during the attack. The pod's medical systems were keeping her alive, but they were failing. Jake's ship had a basic medical bay designed for human physiology, useless for an alien patient. "Captain Morrison," Zara's voice was growing weaker, "I must reach my father. The peace negotiations, if I do not arrive, war between our peoples and the collective will be inevitable. Billions will die." Jake studied the star charts on his navigation computer. The Ethereal Dominion's capital world of Lumina was 3 weeks away at maximum jump speed. Even if Zara survived the journey, which seemed unlikely, the negotiations would be long over. But there was another option, one that would require Jake to risk everything. "Princess, there's a black market medical station in the Outer Rim. It's run by a Zenithian doctor who specializes in multi-species medicine. We could reach it in 18 hours, but..." Jake hesitated. "The station exists in a legal gray area. It's technically in Dracoth Syndicate territory." Zara's eyes met his through the viewport, and Jake saw steel beneath the pane. "Captain, I am the only heir to the ethereal throne. My father has spent decades working toward peace with the Andromedan Collective. If I die, hardliners on both sides will use my death as justification for a war that could consume half the galaxy. Take the risk. Jake made his decision with the quick decisiveness that had kept him alive in dangerous situations. Computer, plot a course for Sanctuary Station. Maximum jump speed. The journey to Sanctuary Station pushed the Lucky Strike to its limits. Jake's ship wasn't built for speed, and every hour that passed saw Zara's vital signs growing weaker. The princess remained conscious, and, during the long hours between jump points, she told Jake about her world and her people. The ethereal dominion was old beyond human comprehension, a civilization that had mastered energy manipulation and quantum technology when humanity was still discovering fire. But age had brought wisdom, and the ethereals had learned that military might without purpose was hollow. Zara's father had spent his reign building alliances and seeking peaceful solutions to galactic conflicts. My people believe that true strength comes from protecting those who cannot protect themselves, Zara explained, her voice barely a whisper through the translation system. It is why I was traveling alone to the negotiations, despite the danger. A show of trust often accomplishes more than a fleet of warships. Jake found himself genuinely impressed by the princess's dedication to peace. In his experience, most royalty were more concerned with personal comfort than abstract ideals. Zara was different. She spoke with the conviction of someone who had seen war's true cost and was determined to prevent it. Sanctuary Station appeared on the sensors like a metal flower blooming in the darkness. The station was a patchwork of different technologies, built and rebuilt over the years by whoever needed a place to operate without government oversight. It wasn't pretty, but Dr. Zirith, the Zenithian who ran the medical facility, was rumored to be able to save anyone. Docking proved complicated. The station's traffic control was handled by a surly Dracoth enforcer who demanded to know Jake's business. The Dracoth were reptilian creatures, 7 feet tall with height thick enough to stop small arms fire and attitudes to match their appearance. Medical emergency, Jake transmitted, keeping his voice steady. I've got a patient who needs immediate attention. Species, the enforcer demanded. Jake hesitated. If the Dracoth learned he was carrying an ethereal princess, they would either try to capture her for ransom or kill her on the spot. Either option would be bad for galactic peace. Human, Jake lied smoothly. Caught some bad radiation exposure in a solar flare. The enforcer grunted what might have been acceptance and assigned Jake a docking port. As the Lucky Strike settled into its berth, Jake could only hope that Dr. Zirith was as good as his reputation suggested. Dr. Zirith turned out to be a tall, thin creature with 4 arms and skin that shifted color based on his emotional state. Currently, his hide was showing patches of deep blue, which Jake hoped indicated concentration rather than annoyance. This is not a human, Dr. Zirith observed with admirable understatement as Jake wheeled Zara's life support pod into the medical bay. This is an ethereal, and a high-ranking one judging by the genetic markers in her blood. Can you help her? Jake asked, deciding that honesty might be the best policy after all. Dr. Zirith's skin shifted to green and gold stripes, apparently the Zenithian equivalent of professional interest. Fascinating. I have never had an opportunity to study ethereal physiology in detail. Yes, I can help her, but the procedure will be expensive and dangerous. Ethereal biology operates on quantum principles that most medical equipment cannot accommodate. Name your price, Jake said without hesitation. 1 million credits, Dr. Zirith replied calmly. Half now, half upon successful completion of treatment. Jake felt his stomach drop. His entire ship wasn't worth half that amount. Doctor, I don't have that kind of money. Then, your patient will die, Dr. Zirith said with the matter-of-fact tone that medical professionals seem to cultivate. Ethereal quantum cellular matrices are highly unstable when damaged. I estimate she has perhaps 4 hours before complete system failure. Jake stared at the unconscious princess, his mind racing through options. He could try to contact the ethereal dominion, but communication across interstellar distances took time he didn't have. He could attempt to find another doctor, but Dr. Zirith was supposedly the best in this part of the galaxy. There is another option, Dr. Zirith continued, his skin shifting to orange and purple bands. I have a colleague who might be willing to provide the necessary equipment in exchange for a favor. But, I should warn you, Dr. Vex has a reputation for unusual payment methods. Dr. Vex turned out to be a modified human who had replaced so much of her original body with cybernetic enhancements that she barely qualified as the same species anymore. Her laboratory was a maze of experimental technology that hummed and sparked with barely contained energy. An ethereal princess, Dr. Vex mused, her mechanical eyes whirring as they focused on Zara. How deliciously complicated. Yes, I can provide the quantum stabilization equipment that Zirith needs, but my price is not monetary. What do you want? Jake asked, though he was beginning to suspect he wouldn't like the answer. I want a sample of ethereal genetic material for my research. Just a small tissue sample, nothing that would harm the princess. The scientific applications could revolutionize medical technology across the galaxy. Jake hesitated. Taking genetic samples from an unconscious patient without permission felt like a violation, but Zara was dying. If I agree, you guarantee she'll survive? Zirith is the best surgeon in 12 star systems when he has the right equipment, Dr. Vex replied. With my quantum stabilizers, he can rebuild her cellular matrix from the ground up. She will not only survive, she will be stronger than before. The surgery took 14 hours. Jake paced the station's observation deck, watching ships come and go while trying not to think about what could go wrong. Several times, Dr. Zirith emerged to request additional equipment or consultation with Dr. Vex. Each time, the Zenithian's skin showed different color patterns that Jake couldn't interpret. Finally, as Jake was contemplating the irony of potentially saving an alien princess only to die in debt to black market doctors, Dr. Zirith appeared in the waiting area. His skin was now a steady, warm gold color. The surgery was successful, Dr. Zirith announced. Princess Zara will make a full recovery. The quantum cellular reconstruction has not only healed her injuries but enhanced her natural ethereal abilities. She should awaken within the next few hours. Jake felt relief wash over him like a physical force. Thank you, Doctor. I'll find a way to pay you back. That will not be necessary, Dr. Zirith replied, his skin shifting to surprised purple stripes. While you were waiting, I received a priority transmission from the Ethereal Dominion. It seems Emperor Thane has been searching for his daughter and has traced her to this station. He is grateful for your assistance. The implications of that statement were still sinking in when Jake heard his name being called over the station's communication system. Captain Morrison, please report to Docking Bay 7 immediately. You have visitors. Jake made his way through the station's corridors with growing apprehension. Docking Bay 7 was one of the larger berths, designed to accommodate vessels much bigger than his cargo hauler. As he entered the bay, Jake's jaw dropped at the sight that greeted him. 3 ships filled the space, vessels of such obvious advanced technology that they made everything else on the station look primitive by comparison. The smallest of the 3 was larger than most human battleships, its hull seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Standing in formation before the ships were 24 figures in elegant armor that seemed to be made of crystallized starlight. At their head stood a tall man whose presence commanded immediate attention. Emperor Thane of the Ethereal Dominion was exactly what Jake would have expected from Zara's father, regal bearing, ancient eyes, and an aura of power that made the air itself seem charged with energy. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Captain Morrison, Emperor Thane said, stepping forward with measured grace, my daughter owes you her life, and, through her, the galaxy owes you peace. Such a debt demands appropriate compensation. Jake had expected many things when he rescued the alien princess: gratitude, perhaps some monetary reward, maybe even a medal if he was lucky. What he had not expected was to find himself standing before the most powerful being in 3 star systems while that being's daughter recovered from surgery in a black market medical station. Emperor Thane's presence filled the docking bay like a force of nature. The ethereal ruler stood nearly 8 feet tall, his silver hair flowing despite the absence of any breeze, and his violet eyes seemed to see straight through to Jake's soul. The crystalline armor worn by his honor guard reflected the station's harsh lighting in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Your Majesty, Jake began, unsure of the proper protocol for addressing galactic royalty, I just did what anyone would have done. No, Captain Morrison, Emperor Thane replied, his voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in Jake's bones. Most beings would have reported the distress signal and continued on their way. You chose to risk your life, your ship, and your freedom to save my daughter. Such courage deserves recognition. Dr. Zirith appeared at Jake's shoulder, his skin now displaying nervous yellow patterns. Your Majesty, the princess is awakened, asking for Captain Morrison. The medical bay had been transformed. Where before there had been jury-rigged equipment and improvised solutions, now there were devices that seemed to bend light around themselves and generate fields of energy that Jake could feel but not see. Zara lay on a biobed that appeared to be made of living crystal, her silver skin now glowing with health. Captain, Zara said as Jake approached, her voice stronger than he had ever heard it. I understand I owe you my life twice over, once for the rescue, and once for bringing me to this place despite the danger. Just glad you're okay, Princess, Jake replied, feeling awkward in the presence of so much advanced technology and royal attention. Emperor Thane moved to his daughter's side, and, for a moment the powerful ruler's mask slipped, revealing the relief of a father who had almost lost his child. The peace negotiations were postponed when news of your disappearance reached the Andromedan Collective. They chose to wait rather than assume you had been killed. Your survival may well prevent a war. The Dracath Syndicate? Zara asked, attempting to sit up despite the medical equipment. Being dealt with, Emperor Thane replied, and Jake heard steel beneath the gentle tone. Their attack on a diplomatic mission was an act of war against both the Dominion and the Collective. They will find their next few years quite challenging. Jake was beginning to feel like an outsider in a conversation that dealt with galactic politics far beyond his understanding. Your Majesty, if the princess is safe, I should probably get going. I've got cargo to deliver, and I'm already behind schedule. Emperor Thane turned those ancient eyes on Jake, and, suddenly, the human felt like he was being evaluated by a force beyond his comprehension. Captain Morrison, before you leave, I would like to offer you something. A token of gratitude for what you have done. The Emperor gestured, and one of his honor guards approached carrying what appeared to be a small crystalline device. This is a quantum communicator, one of only 12 in existence. It will allow you to contact the ethereal dominion instantly across any distance. Should you ever find yourself in need of assistance, activate the device, and help will come. Jake accepted the device, surprised by its warmth and the way it seemed to pulse with inner light. Thank you, Your Majesty. This is very generous. There is more, Emperor Thane continued. The ethereal dominion maintains trade agreements with over 3,000 worlds. I am prepared to grant you preferred status in all our commercial ventures. Your cargo hauling business would become quite profitable. The offer was staggering. Preferred trading status with the ethereal dominion would make Jake wealthy beyond his wildest dreams. Every cargo run would be guaranteed profitable, every destination would welcome him with open arms. He would never have to worry about money again. But, something in the Emperor's manner suggested there was more to come. Jake had learned to read people during his years as a freelance trader, and Emperor Thane was building up to something significant. However, the Emperor continued, confirming Jake's suspicion, there is one additional matter I would like to discuss. My daughter has told me of your conversation during the journey to this station. She was impressed by your dedication to doing what was right despite personal cost. Zara spoke from the biobed, her violet eyes fixed on Jake's face. You risked everything to save someone you had never met, someone who could offer you nothing in return. That kind of moral courage is rare in the galaxy. Emperor Thane nodded. Indeed. Which brings me to my true purpose here, Captain Morrison. The ethereal dominion has prospered for millennia because we understand the value of diverse perspectives. Our greatest achievements have come not from isolation, but from learning from other species and cultures. Jake was beginning to suspect where this conversation was heading, and the possibility both thrilled and terrified him. Humanity is young by galactic standards, Emperor Thane continued, but you possess qualities that older species have sometimes forgotten. Your willingness to take risks for strangers, your adaptability in crisis situations, your tendency to find innovative solutions with limited resources, these are valuable traits. The Emperor paused, and Jake realized he was holding his breath. I am offering you a position as Special Ambassador for Human Affairs within the Ethereal Dominion. You would be the first human to hold such a rank. Your duties would involve facilitating contact between humanity and the Dominion, helping to establish trade relationships, and serving as an advisor on human capabilities and culture. Jake felt the words hit him like a physical blow. Special Ambassador. To an interstellar empire that spanned hundreds of worlds. The boy from Earth's agricultural colonies who had barely scraped together enough credits to buy a second-hand cargo hauler was being offered one of the most prestigious positions in known space. The salary would be substantial, Emperor Thane added, and you would retain ownership of your ship. The position would also come with a diplomatic immunity that extends across most of civilized space. Jake's mind raced through the implications. Never again would he have to worry about pirates, corrupt officials, or late payments from deadbeat clients. He would have access to technology beyond human understanding and the protection of the galaxy's most advanced civilization. There is one condition, Emperor Thane said, his tone becoming more formal. The position would require you to relocate to Lumina, our capital world. You would be welcome to return to human space whenever you wished, but your primary residence would be within the Dominion. Zara leaned forward on her biobed. Captain, I know this is a significant decision. You would be leaving behind everything familiar. But you would also be opening doors between our peoples that have remained closed for too long. Humanity has much to offer the galaxy, and the galaxy has much to offer humanity. Jake looked around the medical bay at the technology that surrounded him, technology that could heal injuries that would be fatal by human standards, that could communicate instantly across impossible distances, that could manipulate energy itself. Then, he thought about his life as a cargo hauler, the constant struggle to make ends meet, the loneliness of long journeys through empty space, the knowledge that one mistake or stroke of bad luck could end everything. But he also thought about Earth, about the friends he had left behind, about the simple pleasure of a familiar sunset or a home-cooked meal. The ethereal dominion offered wonders beyond imagination, but it would also mean leaving behind everything that made him human. I need time to think about this, Jake said finally. It's not a decision I can make lightly. Emperor Thane nodded approvingly. Wisdom. Hasty decisions are often poor decisions. I will give you one standard month to consider the offer. Dr. Zirith, I trust you will ensure that Captain Morrison's ship is fully fueled and supplied for his journey? Dr. Zirith's skin shifted to affirmative green patterns. Of course, Your Majesty. It would be my honor. As Jake prepared to leave the medical bay, Zara called out to him. Captain Morrison, whatever you decide, know that you have the eternal gratitude of the ethereal people. You saved more than just my life, you may have saved countless others by preventing a war. Jake nodded, still struggling to process everything that had happened. As he walked back through the station's corridors toward his ship, he passed reflective surfaces that showed him the same face he had seen in mirrors for 32 years. But, somehow, everything had changed. The Lucky Strike had indeed been refueled and resupplied, though Jake noticed the modifications almost immediately. His cargo bay now contained supplies that definitely hadn't been there before, exotic foods, advanced medical supplies, and what appeared to be several cases of ethereal technology that would probably be worth a fortune on any human world. More importantly, his ship's systems had been upgraded. The navigation computer now contained star charts that included regions of space no human had ever seen. The communication array had been enhanced with technology that would allow him to contact vessels across vast distances. Even the artificial gravity generator had been improved to provide more consistent coverage. Jake settled into the pilot's chair and activated his ship's engines, listening to the familiar hum that told him everything was functioning properly. But nothing felt familiar anymore. The quantum communicator sat on his console, pulsing with gentle light, a constant reminder that his life had fundamentally changed. As the Lucky Strike undocked from Sanctuary Station, Jake plotted a course for human space. He had cargo to deliver and a month to make the most important decision of his life. But first, he needed to get home and figure out what it meant to be the only human who had been offered a place in the stars. The journey back to human space gave Jake plenty of time to think, perhaps too much time. Every jump point brought him closer to familiar territory and further from the incredible opportunity Emperor Thane had offered. By the time he reached the outer colonies, Jake had changed his mind a dozen times about what he wanted to do. The cargo delivery went smoothly, though Jake found himself distracted throughout the negotiations. The colonial administrator who accepted his shipment of agricultural equipment seemed pleased with the delivery, but Jake could barely focus on the transaction. His thoughts kept returning to Zara's words about opening doors between humanity and the ethereal dominion. That evening, sitting in a colonial bar that served synthetic alcohol and reconstituted protein, Jake activated the quantum communicator for the first time. The device responded immediately, projecting a hologram of Princess Zara into the air above his table. "Captain Morrison," Zara said, her image flickering slightly due to the bar's primitive holo projection system. "I hoped you would contact us. How are you adjusting to everything that has happened?" "Still processing," Jake admitted. "Your father's offer is generous, but it means leaving behind everything I've ever known." Zara nodded understandingly. "When I was younger, I spent several years studying on different worlds within the Dominion. Each time I arrived somewhere new, I felt the same uncertainty you are experiencing now. But I learned that home is not always a place, sometimes it is a purpose." Jake took a sip of his synthetic beer, grimacing at the taste. "What kind of purpose?" "You have seen what one person can accomplish when they choose to help others despite personal cost," Zara replied. "Imagine what you could accomplish with the resources of the ethereal dominion behind you. Humanity is on the verge of becoming a truly spacefaring species, but you lack the technology and connections to reach your full potential. And you think I could help change that?" "I know you could," Zara said with conviction. "You demonstrated the kind of character that my people respect. More importantly, you understand both human nature and the realities of life in the galaxy. You could serve as a bridge between our civilizations." Jake was quiet for a long moment, staring into his drink and thinking about possibilities. Finally, he looked up at Zara's holographic image. "Princess, if I accept your father's offer, what would my first assignment be?" Zara smiled, an expression that managed to be beautiful even when projected through primitive technology. "There is a human colony in the Tau Ceti system that has been struggling with crop failures. Their requests for aid through normal galactic channels have been ignored because they have nothing valuable to trade. The ethereal dominion has agricultural technology that could solve their problems permanently. And you want me to facilitate that? I want you to show the galaxy what humanity is capable of when given the chance," Zara replied. "Those colonists chose to build a new life on a challenging world rather than accept the limitations of Earth's overcrowded cities. That kind of determination deserves support." Jake felt something shift in his chest, a recognition that this was bigger than his personal comfort or fear of change. The quantum communicator pulsed gently, waiting for his response. Through the bar's windows, he could see the lights of the colonial settlement, each one representing families who had taken risks to build something better. "Princess," Jake said slowly, "I think I'm ready to give you my answer." 6 months after accepting Emperor Thane's offer, Jake Morrison stood in his new office on Lumina, the capital world of the ethereal dominion, and marveled at how completely his life had changed. The office itself was a work of art, its walls made from crystallized starlight that provided perfect illumination while displaying real-time views of distant galaxies. His desk appeared to be carved from a single piece of quantum-stable matter that responded to his thoughts, organizing information and communications with an efficiency that still amazed him. But the most remarkable change wasn't in his surroundings, it was in what he had accomplished. The Tau Ceti colony now thrived with crops that could grow in previously impossible soil conditions, thanks to ethereal agricultural technology that Jake had helped implement. 3 other human settlements had requested similar assistance, and preliminary trade agreements were being negotiated between the Dominion and 5 different human worlds. Jake's transformation from cargo hauler to galactic diplomat had not been without challenges. The ethereal language contained concepts that had no human equivalent, and their technology required an understanding of quantum physics that pushed his comprehension to its limits. But Princess Zara had been right about one thing: he had found his purpose. The chime of his communication system interrupted his thoughts. Emperor Thane's image appeared in the air above Jake's desk, the ruler looking more relaxed than Jake had ever seen him. "Captain Morrison," Emperor Thane said, though Jake's rank was now officially Special Ambassador. "I have news that I believe you will find interesting." "Good news, I hope, Your Majesty?" "Very good news indeed. The Andromedan Collective has formally proposed a three-way alliance between their civilization, the Ethereal Dominion, and humanity. They were impressed by the reports of human adaptability and resourcefulness that I shared with them following your appointment." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. The Andromedan Collective controlled nearly as much territory as the Ethereal Dominion, and their technology focused on different areas of development. An alliance with both civilizations would catapult humanity into the front ranks of galactic powers almost overnight. What would such an alliance entail? Jake asked, settling into his chair as the implications began to sink in. Full technology sharing, mutual defense agreements, and joint exploration of uncharted regions, Emperor Thane replied. The collective is particularly interested in humanity's talent for improvisation and problem-solving under pressure. They believe these traits would be valuable for exploring the galactic rim, where standard approaches often fail. Jake thought about the human tendency to jury-rig solutions and find unconventional answers to impossible problems. Traits that had often been viewed as signs of primitive technology by other species were apparently seen as assets by the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. "There is one condition," Emperor Thane continued, and Jake braced himself for a complication. "The collective wants to meet with you personally before finalizing the agreement. They want to evaluate human diplomatic capabilities and ensure that your species can handle the responsibilities that would come with such an alliance." "When and where?" Jake asked, surprised by how quickly he had adapted to thinking in terms of representing all of humanity. "The collective has agreed to meet at the Nexus station in the neutral zone. It is a diplomatic facility maintained jointly by several major civilizations. You would be accompanied by Princess Zara as the Dominion's representative, and the meeting would take place in 2 weeks." Jake nodded, already mentally preparing for what could be the most important diplomatic mission in human history. But, as Emperor Thane's image faded, Jake realized there was someone he needed to talk to before leaving for the Nexus station. He activated the quantum communicator's connection to Earth and waited for the familiar face of Admiral Sarah Chen, the head of Earth's Interstellar Commerce Authority, to appear in his office. Admiral Chen had been skeptical when Jake first contacted her about the Ethereal Dominion's interest in humanity, but the success of the Tau Ceti agricultural project had made her a believer. "Ambassador Morrison," Admiral Chen said, using Jake's formal title with only slight irony, "I assume you're calling about the Andromedan situation." Word travels fast in diplomatic circles. "Admiral, I need to know, is Earth ready for this kind of alliance? We're talking about technology that could transform human civilization overnight, but it would also make us a major player in galactic politics. That comes with responsibilities and dangers." Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment, her expression serious. "Jake, 6 months ago I would have said absolutely not. Humanity barely has a foothold beyond our own solar system, and our technology is primitive compared to what you've described. But the reports from the colonies you've helped, they're remarkable." She gestured, and holographic displays appeared around her image showing agricultural yields, population growth statistics, and economic projections. "The Tau Ceti colony is now producing food surpluses for the first time in its history. The mining operation on Kepler 186f has tripled its output using ethereal refining techniques. Most importantly, these successes have inspired other colonies to pursue more ambitious goals." Jake studied the data, impressed by the measurable impact of the technology transfers he had facilitated. But he also noticed something else in the numbers: humanity was adapting to advanced technology with remarkable speed. "There's something else," Admiral Chen continued. "Our scientists have been studying the ethereal technologies you shared with us. They're not just copying the designs, they're finding ways to improve them. The agricultural processors are now 30% more efficient than the originals. Our engineers combined ethereal quantum principles with human manufacturing techniques to create hybrid systems that outperform both parent technologies." Jake felt a surge of pride in his species. Even when given access to technology far beyond their normal capabilities, humans were still finding ways to innovate and improve. "Admiral, I think we're as ready as we'll ever be," Jake said finally. "But, I need you to understand, if this alliance goes through, there's no going back. Humanity will be committed to playing a role in galactic affairs." "Jake, we've been isolated for too long," Admiral Chen replied. "The universe is vast and dangerous, and we can't face it alone forever. If you believe this alliance is in humanity's best interests, then you have Earth's full support." 2 weeks later, Jake found himself aboard an ethereal diplomatic vessel approaching Nexus Station. The station was a marvel of cooperative engineering, with sections built by dozens of different species using incompatible technologies somehow integrated into a functioning whole. It served as neutral ground for negotiations between civilizations that might otherwise never be able to communicate safely. Princess Zara had insisted on accompanying Jake personally, despite her father's concerns about security. She wore formal diplomatic robes that seemed to be woven from captured aurora light, and her presence had already impressed the station's multi-species staff. "Nervous?" Zara asked as they prepared to meet the Andromedan delegation. "Terrified," Jake admitted. "I'm about to represent my entire species in front of beings who have mastered technologies I can barely understand." Zara smiled, the expression warm and encouraging. "Jake, you are exactly the right person for this task. You have the qualities that make humanity special: the willingness to take risks, the ability to find solutions where others see only problems, and the courage to do what is right even when it costs you personally." The Andromedan delegation was unlike anything Jake had imagined. The Andromedans themselves were energy beings who maintained physical forms through advanced technology, appearing as tall figures composed of shifting patterns of light. Their leader, who introduced herself as Harmonize in Purpose, communicated through direct mental contact that felt like hearing music made of pure thought. "Human Jake Morrison, *, the Andromedan's mental voice resonated in his consciousness, *, your reputation precedes you. The one called Thane has spoken of your actions regarding his offspring and your subsequent diplomatic successes. We wish to understand what drives your species to such actions. *, Jake thought carefully before responding, aware that his answer could determine humanity's future relationship with two of the galaxy's major powers. Honorable Harmonize in Purpose, humans are driven by the belief that every individual has value, and that protecting others is a responsibility we all share. When I found Princess Zara, I didn't calculate the potential benefits of helping her. I saw someone who needed assistance, and my conscience would not allow me to abandon her." "Interesting," came the reply. Most species develop either individual excellence or collective harmony. Your species appears to pursue both simultaneously. This creates internal conflicts, but also remarkable adaptability. *, the Andromedan gestured, and holographic displays filled the air around them, showing star charts, technological specifications, and cultural analysis data. Jake realized he was looking at a comprehensive study of humanity based on observations gathered over decades. "We have monitored your species for some time," *, Harmonize in Purpose explained. Your tendency to find unconventional solutions and your willingness to sacrifice for strangers are traits we value highly. But, we must know, can humanity handle the responsibilities of galactic citizenship? Jake thought about the colonies that were now thriving thanks to ethereal technology, about human engineers improving upon designs created by civilizations thousands of years older than Earth, about Admiral Chen's willingness to support an alliance despite the risks. "We will make mistakes," Jake said honestly. Humanity is young and sometimes acts without fully understanding the consequences. But we learn quickly, and we never abandon those who depend on us. If you give us the chance, we will prove that youth and determination can complement ancient wisdom." The Andromedan's form brightened, shifting through patterns that Zara had taught Jake indicated approval. * Your honesty is refreshing, Human Jake Morrison. Many species make promises of perfection when seeking alliance. You acknowledge limitations while demonstrating confidence. This suggests wisdom. * What followed was 3 days of detailed negotiations involving technology transfers, territorial agreements, and mutual defense protocols. Jake found himself serving not just as a representative but as a translator, helping both sides understand the cultural contexts behind various proposals. The breakthrough came when the Andromedans presented their most ambitious proposal, a joint exploration mission to the Galactic Rim, where unknown dangers and opportunities awaited discovery. They wanted human crews to work alongside ethereal and Andromedan personnel in exploring regions where conventional approaches had failed. Why humans for this mission? Jake asked, intrigued by the implications. Because *harmonize in purpose explained, humans excel at improvisation under pressure. The Galactic Rim contains phenomena that cannot be predicted or prepared for. Success will require the ability to adapt quickly to impossible circumstances. This is a distinctly human strength. Jake felt a chill of excitement at the prospect. Humanity would go from an isolated species struggling to colonize nearby star systems to partners in exploring the unknown reaches of the galaxy. It was more than he had ever dared hope for. The signing ceremony took place in Nexus Station's main assembly hall, a chamber large enough to accommodate representatives from dozens of species. Jake stood between Princess Zara and Harmonize in purpose as documents were signed using quantum encrypted protocols that would make the agreements binding across all three civilizations. As Jake affixed his signature to the treaty using a stylus made from crystallized time itself, he thought about the journey that had brought him to this moment. It had started with a simple decision to respond to a distress signal from an unknown source. That choice had led him from a struggling cargo hauler to the architect of humanity's emergence as a galactic power. Emperor Thane had been right about one thing: rescuing Princess Zara had indeed left Jake staggered. But not for the reasons he had originally imagined. The true reward wasn't wealth or status or advanced technology. It was the opportunity to help his species take its place among the stars and to prove that humanity had something valuable to offer the galaxy. As the ceremony concluded and representatives from dozens of species congratulated Jake on humanity's new alliance, he activated his quantum communicator one final time to share the news with Earth. Admiral Chen's image appeared, surrounded by a crowd of officials and reporters eager to hear the results. "Admiral," Jake said, unable to keep the grin off his face, "I have some good news to share with the folks back home." The response from Earth was everything Jake had hoped for: celebration, excitement, and a determination to prove worthy of the trust that had been placed in humanity. Over the following weeks, messages poured in from colonies across human space, volunteer applications for the exploration missions, and expressions of gratitude for opening doors that had seemed forever closed. But perhaps the most meaningful response came from an unexpected source. Dr. Zirith, the Zenithian surgeon who had saved Zara's life, contacted Jake with an unusual request. The doctor wanted to establish a joint medical research facility where human, ethereal, and Andromedan physicians could work together to develop new treatments that combined the best aspects of each species' approach to medicine. "Captain Morrison," Dr. Zirith said, his skin displaying pleased golden patterns, "your actions have created ripple effects across the galaxy. The alliance you helped forge is inspiring cooperation between species that have never collaborated before. You have given us all a reminder that sometimes the most important discoveries come not from advanced technology, but from the simple decision to help others." Jake accepted Dr. Zirith's proposal, adding medical cooperation to his growing list of diplomatic achievements. As he worked to coordinate the new research facility, he reflected on how much had changed since that day when he had picked up an alien distress signal. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders beyond imagination, but it was also full of beings who shared the same fundamental desires: to protect their loved ones, to build something better than what they had inherited, and to find their place among the stars. Humanity had found its place not through conquest or superior technology, but through the simple recognition that helping others was always the right choice. And sometimes, when you made the right choice for the right reasons, the universe rewarded you with opportunities beyond your wildest dreams. Jake Morrison had rescued an alien princess and discovered that the greatest treasure in the galaxy was the chance to help others reach their full potential. Standing in his office on Lumina, watching human ships prepare for their first joint exploration mission with their new allies, Jake smiled at the thought of all the impossible things that had become possible through a simple act of compassion. The boy from Earth's agricultural colonies had indeed been left staggered by the rewards of his choices, but in the very best possible way.